Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says the nation hopes to secure an IMF board approval for its $3 billion loan agreement by May. Now, securing this will, however, require meeting the critical target of bringing debt to GDP ratio to 55% by 2028 and reducing the country's external debt servicing ratio. Achieving these can, however, prove to be challenging. As Mr. Ofori-Atta says, the nation has so far been able to restructure only $1.6 billion of its $30.5 billion external debt. Now, this is despite not seeking to restructure some $8.8 billion. Listen to the minister address the investor community earlier today.
The total stock of external debt amounted to $30.5 billion. So far, we've structured the equivalent of $1.6 billion belonging to the non-resident holders of domestic debt. We have $8.8 billion that are held by multilateral development banks and therefore are not being restructured. The remainder of the external debt amounting to $20 billion encompasses $14.6 billion of commercial debt and $5.4 billion of bilateral debt treated under the common framework. We are reaching out to all our external commercial creditors because you are an integral part of the solution to our current economic and financial crisis. We value the long-standing relationships we have with you and appreciate the continuous support you have provided to Ghana, and we look forward to that relationship continuing.
He, however, remains confident of securing the board approval latest by May.
I look forward to the discussions with our international bondholders and other external commercial creditors to work towards a solution to attain the type of stability that will be required for us to create a better future for all of us. We do at this time expect IMF board approval in May at the latest and contemplate a rapid negotiation of a memorandum of understanding with our official creditors.
Now, Mr. Ofori-Atta says the aim is to achieve economic stability through the IMF program.
So our prime objective is to restore public debt sustainability and ensure a full financing of the program. Two key conditions for the IMF board to approve the program and proceed with the much-needed financial disbursement under an extended credit facility. This will require, among other targets, bringing the ratio of the present value of our total public debt to GDP to 55% by 2028 and bringing our external debt service to revenue ratio below 18% from 2028. This will also require securing enough financial assistance from our development partners to meet our gross financing needs over the period of the program. This will be of paramount importance to ensure the IMF program is fully funded.
Now we're joined via Zoom by Joy News business editor George Wiafe, who is in the Washington, D.C. monitoring event for us. Now, George, this afternoon's press briefing was targeted at getting commercial creditors to the negotiation table. Were they convinced by the finance minister's presentation? George, kindly unmute so we can follow what you're telling us.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
So I'm saying that convince is $1 billion question that still deserves us or trying to get some answers on that one. But it appears that they've seen their way clear in terms of the way forward and the plan or what the minister or government is trying to do to try and stabilize the economy. And therefore, the uncertainties, the lingering questions, some would say, some of them has been partly addressed.
Now, is it a case that we have found favor in the eyes of the IMF director, listening to how she's been consistent with calling for help for Ghana?
Well, favor might be a very interesting word to use. But for her, and just a while ago during the press conference, her argument was that look at Ghana's track record in terms of macroeconomic stability and what they've been able to do, the rising star of Africa, and how they've been able to manage the economy over the years. And so if a very controversial comment said, if due to externalities, they found themselves in this position, they deserve to be helped. And that is a conviction about her willingness to help. And I explained to you earlier that I stand to be educated and corrected, but following the IMF, I haven't seen a situation where a country is requesting for program and the chief examiner here just saying that, listen, just even submit your blank sheet or something, I'll pass you. So for her, her argument is based on the fact that she believes that Ghana's track record suggests that they haven't been that of a bad child or a bad student. And therefore, if they are in crisis right now, they deserve to be supported.
Of course, from the World Bank, the IMF, G24 countries, and even the US Treasury to fast-track talks with developing countries. I mean, China has been called to do that, to fast-track talks with developing countries like Ghana, Zambia, and all of that. Are these calls yielding any impact? Do you foresee that?
Well, I just walked out of a G20 briefing, and you get the sense that now China has given that firm commitment that they will fast-track discussions. I mean, China is now being put in that box of being the cause of delay, for instance, on Zambia's issues and all the rest. So at this G20 meetings, China's argument is that, listen, they are now committed to fast-tracking debt restructuring discussions on Ghana and then Zambia. So again, that could be a plus for us as well.
I mean, if you look at how the whole thing has gone after this particular meeting by the finance minister, meeting the external creditors and all the Eurobond creditors and all of you, I mean, what has been the reaction by the creditors and Ghana's team after this crucial meeting this afternoon?
When you engage the Ghana team, their argument is that, listen, all the things that the country is supposed to do for a program, they believe that they've done what they're supposed to do. And therefore, for anybody who has the doubts about their commitment to putting in place those measures to improve revenue, anyone who has doubts about putting in place those, talk about the zero financing, understand that that memorandum of understanding has been reached, and all these things that the fund had put for in terms of the preconditions, they've done it. So it's like, listen, we've done what we're supposed to do. So what else, again, should we be doing to convince these external investors, to convince these multilaterals that we are indeed committed to putting in place those measures to stabilize the economy? If you engage some of these investors as well, you get that understanding that they are now kind of seeing their way clear.
Okay.
They are concerned about whether they really want to participate in this debt restructuring or not. But they see their way clear right now in terms of some progress being made. And that is what actually brings them some comfort.
George, we're grateful for joining us all the way from Washington, D.C. George Wefe is monitoring that IMF World Bank Spring meeting currently underway in Washington, D.C. Now in studio, research and data analyst Isaac Kofi joins me in studio to help us break down all of this. Now, Kofi, how much of our external debt are we hoping to restructure?
Well, you said it right. So we know the external debt was around $28 billion as of September 2022. Now we are looking at $30.5 billion. So it means within a very short span, we've added up to our external debt stock, which is now more or less like 31 billion cedis. But one thing that the finance minister put out and is surprising is that we are likely not to restructure about 8.8, almost $9 billion of this, debt stock, which is about more than close to 30% of the total external debt stock. I don't know if, some of the creditors will look at this and say, look, why are you not tackling debt belonging to multinational, development banks like AFDB and other things? $8.8 billion is huge for them. So I don't know if some of the creditors will make such a big case and say, include everybody at the negotiation table. Don't look at just bilateral creditors and also commercial creditors.
Okay. Now, we also understand the finance minister spoke about the IPPs in terms of how much we do owe them. How much do we know in terms of that particular category of our creditors?
So the finance minister gave the update. It's close to $2 billion, $1.6 billion is what we are talking about. But the IPPs, the independent power purchasers, have actually made their message clear. They are telling the finance ministry that, or the finance minister, they will not agree to any form of debt restructuring. If you look at the data and what we have in our data repository, we know that as a country, we owe about we actually pay about $1.6 billion as a result of, this energy sector debt. So every year, we are paying about $1 billion as a result of energy sector debt. And I look at the data, and even if you talk about, excess capacity, it's around 500 million Ghana cedis. So if you are going to the negotiation table, you need to make sure that everybody is on board, because this IPP debt we are talking about is dollar denominated. Okay. We are not going to pay them in cedis. So if you are talking about external debt restructuring, it's more or less like these people are part. But the finance minister said, although you've said you're not going to participate, we are actually going to give you a special package, and we hope that you come to the negotiation table as a result of this.
Interesting. Now, meanwhile, the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, says she will personally intervene to enable Ghana reach a deal with her creditors as crucial talks take center stage ahead of the fund's board consideration of a $3 billion bailout for Ghana. Now, addressing a press conference on the IMF 2023 global agenda, Kristalina Georgieva said Ghana, an innocent bystander of COVID-19 and Ukraine war, needs assistance to revive its economy.
We have been in constant contact with the authorities in Ghana. We have worked very hard and very swiftly to have the program for Ghana, $3 billion support program for Ghana in place. We have been urging Ghana's creditors to act swiftly. My appreciation for also the proactive role of the Minister of Finance of Ghana in reaching out to creditors. We are expecting that next week there will be discussions among creditors, and I can tell you that I use every opportunity myself to urge them to act swiftly. Let's remember that Ghana for a long time has done really well to tap markets to finance its growth path. It has been like all innocent bystanders hit by COVID, hit by the war in Ukraine, and it has complicated domestically the ability to finance the budget. So a country that has long track record of sound macroeconomic management ought to be supported to return to markets. So our program is a bridge for Ghana, and to tell you the truth, I'm actually quite optimistic. I think Ghana is going to move. The creditors are going to move, and we are going to move swiftly. So I guess the short answer to you is stay tuned and stay positive.
Now to other stories, and Ghana's human rights record is up for scrutiny yet again, as the nation has been cited for multiple human rights violations, including torture, extrajudicial killings, and arrest of pressmen. This has been captured in a U.S. State Department report focused on violations recorded in the year 2022. So let's share with you details of this particular report. And it says in February, police chased a suspected traffic offender into a palace in Yendi and opened fire, killing another man and injuring eight others with stray bullets. Now, on April 24th, police in Nkranza arrested one Albert Donko, alleging his involvement in some armed robberies. He died while in police custody hours later. Police later fired live ammunition into a crowd of protesters seeking justice and killed a protester. Now, as of November, police had not concluded internal investigations into all of the above deaths. That's according to that report by the U.S. states. Now, it says that on February 11, police arrested Oliver Barker Vomowo, an activist critical of the government, in response to a series of Facebook posts. After initially charging him with misdemeanor charges of making false statements, police upgraded the charges to felony treason and held him in prison for 35 days before a judge released him on bail. Now, the statement continues to say that in February, some police in plain clothes attacked a Connect FM producer after he photographed the officers in a restaurant with their guns displayed and holding men in handcuffs. Now, in the same month, police arrested the executive director of the Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability and a morning show host for accusing the First Lady of misappropriating public funds. The two were charged with publication of false news. The cases remain pending. Now, the law provides for criminal penalties for those who post false or misleading information online, with penalties of up to 5 years in prison and substantial fines. In August, the Kumasi Traditional Council ordered Oyerpa FM to stop broadcasting after it broadcast a program which the council considered disrespectful of their office. Now, a businessman had accused the traditional authorities of condoning destructive illegal mining in the region. The station resumed broadcasting 4 days later after issuing apologies to the council. Now, the statement touches on the LGBTQI+ community, and it says reported police violence against the persons who are involved in these ones. Now, civil society groups and activists reported police were resistant to investigative claims of assault or violence against LGBTQI+ persons. Now, stigma, intimidation, and the perceived negative attitude of some police toward LGBTQI+ persons were factors in preventing survivors from reporting incidents of abuse. The statement continues to say that these persons in prison were vulnerable to harassment as well as sexual, mental, and physical abuse, which authorities generally did not investigate. So those are these are some of the content of that report released by the U.S. State Department. Now, Professor Appiah Etua is a law professor with the University of Ghana and a human rights advocate. He joins us with more. Prof, grateful that you join us. Now, surprised by what you are seeing, you are hearing from this report. Clearly, these are serious issues of concern.
Thank you for having me. I'm not really surprised. I think we have been talking about some of these issues all along, and it was also envisaged that if such a report comes, we'll hear such unacceptable reports about Ghana's human rights record. And you can expect that next year it may even be worse, based on what the country's practices so far this year. And so it is a worrying trend. That is what we should be concerned about. And so I think what human rights defenders and human rights organizations and NGOs, what has been confirmed in this report.
Okay. Now, what can be done to change the trend? The obvious challenge is that the violations are happening at different levels of governance.
Yes, I think, first of all, we need to look at our democratic structure, or the form of governance we have, and the accountability mechanisms we have in place. We have a form of democracy that is a sort of hybrid form of governance, whereby we have what Professor H.K. Prempeh refers to as imperial president, a president that is vested with so much power, and he exercises his power in a very vertical direction where resources are distributed based on who is kowtowing to the president. And the president has that huge power with little or ineffective accountability mechanisms in place, where he has been able to capture and to bring under his control the key accountability institutions and human rights bodies that are supposed to ensure that there is respect for human rights, there is accountability for rights violations, and so on. So we need to address some of these impunities that are in the system, in the law and it's in practice, so that when we're able to say that our president has too much power, that power needs to be diffused and decentralized. Accountability mechanisms need to be put in place and made to work. For example, we talk about institutions such as, even within the arms of government, Parliament is not exercising its oversight responsibility. Even with the opposition, the numbers that we have in Parliament, they are not doing a good job. The executive, we talk about the police, which is part of the executive arm, they are not doing the work that they're supposed to do. And so, if these mechanisms are not working, the burden falls on civil society organizations, and they are doing as much as they can do. We have talked about all the violations that have taken place, Ashama and the more recent times and so on. But without that support from the Constitution, we are not able to do a good job. STRAS, for example, needs to be given the power. It needs to present yearly reports to Parliament. They are not doing that. Parliament is not putting pressure on STRAS to do that. So these are the weaknesses in the system that are causing human rights violations to fester and to become rampant to the extent that it's being normalized in the society.
Interesting. Grateful to you, Prof, for joining us here on the Joy News Prime. Now, to other stories now. Thousands of structures sited in the way of a high-tension voltage transmission line are being demolished in the Ashanti region. The exercise, which has affected some residential, commercial and religious structures and buildings, is to pave way for the construction of the 161 kV Konongo-Kumasi high-tension line. The high-voltage line has not seen any major renovation work since its construction 62 years ago. Ohim Interior of our security desk report victims affected by the exercise appear to have accepted their fate.
So, since last year around June, that they are going to do some decongestion exercise. Though it's going to affect me, but there's nothing I can do, because most of the times there was a canopy outside. Now we've removed the canopy. So when it's raining, the rain, it beats my customers. So those who usually sit under the canopy, they have to come inside. And not all of them are good people. Some of them, if you don't watch them very well, they are going to steal your money. So it has affected me. So, but there's nothing I can do, since it is going to benefit the whole nation.
I am and in because as a mere Mijina High, my laundries na wahai my employ in Kwalabe 15. And in Kwalabe 15, Sansun way bar, Ebe kan Kwalano, Ebe Kami, Yerma, Ebe Kabinum so Yermo. Nemum Domo Baye and Omudibim. If you say, a Bayan Sassi, and a Viera Sassi Sutrano, Yenano, baby no I bet 19 ebe pechi. Na kwanya womo fashion municipal, Edim Como, Ebodo Roa Haninano, Yenano, Ubiati, no mobile and so no, Oman Bayeni Gidi. Te said the Omopeno, Akosumbo Seno, Omuso Wasi and Omo Betwaya no for into Wasi and free Asie, said the Bayer Wayano, Omuchuya, a dear Sum Diaba. The idea one. And Oje, if we say, as Siena Diana Dano, what to one over Chenwaya? A Ghana Munina, the air paying in Yamakania, Amayin, near Tenahon, near say, Domo Yan and Ya, let's just say, ye di Ghana mine a rambo.
Now let's stay on power-related issues, because almost 100 communities in the Amansia South District of the Ashanti region say they cannot be blamed for the non-payment of the electricity bills, as they insist the company has simply failed to do its work. Now, ECG last week embarked on a disconnection exercise that affected the official residence of the district chief executive. But as Love FM's Erastus Asaridonko reports, the communities are willing to pay their bills, but who to pay to is now the challenge.
Service serves the BCE for Amansia South. The service connection to the house is unauthorized. It doesn't go through any ECG document, so we term it as illegal extension.
Ashanti Regional Director of ECG, David Boadia Samoa, led a team of ECG officials on a disconnection exercise in the Amansia South District last week. Amansia South District has 86 rural communities. These communities, including the district capital, Mansour Dubia, benefited from an electricity extension project under the local government and energy ministries in 2020. Electricity was extended and shelf meters distributed to many houses, including this house, rented by the district assembly for the DCE. So this is the disconnected line. And if you look here, it was first connected to that pole over there through this small pole you see here. And then later on, when this line was constructed, you see the poles connecting the whole community. They moved it from that place onto this pole. And now that is what the ECG is referring to as illegal. The landlord, Daniel Boache, and the unit committee chairman, Mr. Are, led a process to get the ECG mapping team from Ebuakwa to capture the electricity meter.
Contractor no buy or the proposal no buy of peso meters for hano. You contacted DTO. District technical officer.
We contacted the district technical officer when the contractor brought the proposal to fix meters here, and he agreed to it. After fixing them, we called him to ask of the capturing process, and he told us it will be done in 2 weeks' time.
No, so Nina arrangement, 2 weeks to 3 weeks time. Maybe I have said bill on your day, Emma, because we are on bill obey the
I was worried the bill wasn't coming. We even
2022 was a very difficult year for us, and we had experienced a significant.
Apologies for the mess up there. Meanwhile, the Northern Electricity Distribution Company, NEDCO, is beginning a revenue drive to collect some 1.1 billion cedis debt owed the company. The exercise is targeted at households, companies, as well as government institutions. The company says it will use the exercise to clamp down on illegal power connections in the area. Maxwell Kotoka is the corporate communications manager of NEDCO.
Going to be a corporate-wide exercise that is occurring simultaneously in all the operational areas, from Sinyai upward all the way to Upper East and Upper West. Like you said in your intro, it entails the collection of bills as well as monitoring to check for illegal connections and unauthorized interferences in the network as well. If you buy the power, let's say 100 units worth of power, and there are some of the areas where the theft leading to the commercial losses is as high as 40%, in some cases even more. What that simply means is that you buy 100 cedis or 100 bags worth of maize. By the time you finish selling, you can only account for 60 bags. There's no business that can be sustained in that manner. I must also be quick to add that it's not the case in every area, but there are some peculiar areas that have this. And the idea is to clean every nook and cranny. We are unable to say that it is for 3 days or 4 days or 1 month, so that if somebody is involved in an illegality, he will suspend it for that period. Once it is over, he gets back to it. It is going to be in perpetuity. For the all hands on deck, it may go a little beyond 1 month. And beyond that, we will put measures in place to ensure that it's an exercise in perpetuity.
Now, still to come here on Joy News Prime, the Ghana Health Service set up task force to stem spread of deadly Anopheles mosquito already concentrated in Tuba and Dansoman areas in the Greater Accra region. More as the Ghana Health Service fears spread could derail effort gained in eliminating malaria in Ghana. Welcome back from the break. Now, a crack team has been set up by the Ghana Health Service to check the spread of the deadly Anopheles stephani mosquito currently in Ghana. Now, the new breed has been described by experts as invasive, spreads faster, and can adapt to a myriad of climate conditions than the normal Anopheles mosquito. Already, they have been identified in Tuba and Dansoman here in the Greater Accra region, where residents are being cautioned to protect themselves. Now, let's bring in an entomologist, Professor Yawasari Afrane, who is an entomologist. He joins us via Zoom now with more. Prof, I'm grateful for that you joined us. Now, you've been researching this field for quite some time now. What more do we know about this mosquito?
Good evening. This is an invasive mosquito that started to spread from Asia to Africa almost a decade ago. And it first came through the Horn of African countries like Djibouti, Somalia, Ethiopia. And now we also have seen that it has gone into mainstream East Africa, countries like Kenya reporting it. And last year we saw that it has also appeared in, it was discovered in Nigeria, and now it's in Ghana. So it's spreading. And some of those countries that have not even found it, maybe they are present, but no one has worked enough to find it. And so finding it in Ghana is very positive, so that we can put in place measures to stop the spread. We know that it breeds more around human habitations, more than breeding in the bushes.
Okay.
They are also, they like urban environments, and they can occupy niches that previously malaria mosquitoes would not breed in there. And so that is what makes it a little bit dangerous. But all in all, I think that the structures that have been put in place by the Ghana Health Service through the National Malaria Elimination Program is doing very well to contain it. Already a task force has been formed, and they are working towards trying to contain these invasive mosquitoes. Just hopefully that it doesn't become more faster than the group that has been set up.
Okay. Well, we want to find out how people can effectively protect themselves from this mosquito. What would be a suggestion? What should people do?
Well, just like they have been protecting themselves against all sorts of mosquitoes around them, I don't think that it should be any different. But these lice breeding, they are container breeders. They can breed in containers, and sometimes when it rains, water collects around containers in houses, around houses. So people should discard all these containers that are around their houses, so that water does not collect in them when it rains, for these mosquitoes to breed in them. They like, as I said earlier, they like breeding in human habitations, and therefore they may breed closer to humans. So they should discard all this, and then try to use bed nets. Those who are able to use bed nets, those who would also have screens, windows, and doors to prevent mosquitoes from getting inside, just like all the other mosquitoes that will be. The only thing about this mosquito is that it is very invasive. It can travel faster. It breeds here. The next time it is gone to another town or village, and so that is why it is very dangerous. Okay. But otherwise, we should be able to contain it like all the other mosquitoes that live with us.
Okay. Prof, I'm grateful for joining us on our news. So that's an entomologist. Meanwhile, Ghana is the first African country that has accepted a malaria vaccine by the university there. Now, we're told that Oxford University has produced a vaccine as part of effort to combat the disease. The Mosquirix from British drug master GSK was later last year endorsed by the World Health Organization. This is according to the malaria control program there. Now, moving on to other stories here on the Joy News Prime. Let's bring more on this. Now, speaking during a community sensitization program organized by the Ghana Boundary Commission, Samuel Tika, who is the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Minerals Commission, warned that the state considers the illegal miners involved in the pollution enemies who have to be punished. He says the Mineral Commission will initiate a community mining scheme to ensure responsible mining in the area. Let's go into the phone lines now and speak to Mr. Tika, who is joining us live. Grateful that you could join us now. How bad is the pollution of the Bui Dam? Because we understand this is this fit into the Bui Dam.
Yes, thank you very much. And then our officers have reported that it's a very bad scene because the equipment and the things that they are using, illegal miners are using to wash into the river are actually serious pollutants. And that section of the river is very, very much getting polluted. And so when they reported, we said, no, we will have to up our game. But the Minerals Commission does not regulate illegal miners. Yeah. We only regulate people who have licenses with us. And so, yes, it is actually getting seriously polluted.
Now, we are also told there are no military or police presence in the area. How will the community mining scheme then be properly regulated?
Yes, thank you very much. You know, this one we are doing, the work we are doing there at Dollar Power is a collaborative thing involving a lot of institutions, such as the Ghana Immigration Service, the National Security, Forestry Commission, Minerals Commission, the District Assembly, Ministry of Roads and Highways, among others. So all these institutions are coming together to ensure that security, what do you call it, architecture that needs to be there are put there. As we speak now, plans are far advanced to set up a security, what do you call it, a police post there by the District Assembly. The DC herself was there, and I know very soon the security post will be set up there. As we also speak now, the Ministry of Highways, in conjunction with the Boundary Commission and also the military, are working very hard to on a road there. They have already started constructing feeder routes that connects, or that will connect Nteresu and Dollar Power.
Okay.
And this one is completed. It will serve as a check on the illegalities and the criminalities that are happening over there.
Okay. All right.
Also, the community mining scheme itself is a check itself in itself, because it involves a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders, including the traditional authorities, the community itself. And you know, the community mining scheme does not allow foreigners to participate in it. And if you get to the Dollar Power community, those who are involved in the mining there are mostly foreigners. Okay. And these are the people who do commit crimes undercover and run away. And so once this thing excludes them, the people will do group mining, excluding the foreigners. And so the security situation there will be drastically reduced.
Okay, Mr. Tika, I'm grateful to you, sir, for joining us here. You're still watching Joy News Prime. Up next, the showbiz. Welcome back. Time for us to bring you showbiz, and Becky Bex is here with all the smiles and beauty. Hiya.
Hello to you, Brace. How you doing?
I am doing
This
well.
evening, let's begin with Stonebwoy's Fifth Dimension album.
Yeah.
That was an exclusive listening for industry players, special people like me, because I was there.
Oh.
I know. So, well, Stonebwoy, here is Stonebwoy talking about, you know, the album and what to expect.
I'm very, very important occasion today. Music is also in the building. Big up C-Real. I see you as well. Thank you so much for coming.
From the features, I wrote all the songs. The production has been partnered. The production definitely. And to just be fair, I would have written 85%. You just be fair of the whole.
That's a lot of your creative ingenuity being poured out there.
Yeah, and we had to select out of 60 songs for the album. before the album, so you can understand.
Selection out of what?
60 songs. We're always recording.
Wow. Wow, 60 songs.
The last time I checked, I had like 850 something songs.
What is wrong with you?
It's true now. What you need music when I'm gone?
You're not going anywhere, don't worry. Amen. See, what?
So at the same event, obviously, we had industry players sharing their views after listening exclusively to the 17-track album by Stonebwoy.
Absolutely an incredible body of work put together by Stonebwoy. I'm super impressed, especially seeing the engineers or programmers or Mr. Ghazi and a whole lot. And putting Angelique Kidjo on it, Tiwa Savage, Stormzy. Trust me, I mean, we've not had, a full package like this in a while.
Impressive. That's an awesome project from Stonebwoy. Variety of songs. You get the soothing songs, you get the danceable songs. Most impressively was his ability to inculcate the every language.
When I spoke earlier, I spoke about the tempo. The international tempo is mid these days. If you listen to most of the songs that are being churned out globally in terms of Afrobeat, it's mid tempo, and he's got it right.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Seriously, I think Stonebwoy has moved from the regular artist to an international figure.
It's featured Germany, it's featured what's the name, UK, and featured US. So again, that should tell you clearly the kind of connections that he's building for himself and the kind of markets he wants to be able to play within.
I think he's even outlived himself more than what I thought. Yes, if anyone who pays attention to the album, or by the time you're airing this interview, you pay attention to the vocal range and the way he's been able to explore different genres, from reggae to dancehall, Afrobeats, amapiano, high life, the folklore music, and all of that. He's been able to cement himself all through.
The journey has been very interesting. Lots of emotions, a lot of hard work, obviously, especially from Stonebwoy. And I mean, it's just so exciting to see such genuine responses from people when they hear the songs, and you're like, yes, all of his hard work is finally, paying off.
This is Setekla ending, the views.
What's your view after listening to that?
I think it's a fantastic album. I mean, it's expected of him, and I mean, if I want to say something, they might say that I'm being biased or something. But I mean, it's a fantastic album. You should listen.
Tell
to
he
it when
didn't
it
do
comes
well
out.
by not inviting me. I'm one of his super supporters. Why he didn't invite me, I don't know.
Stonebwoy, are you listening?
He has to give me an exclusive invite.
Whoever gave out the invitation, you should have invited Grace.
That's how we wrap up our bulletin. There's more news on myjoyonline.com.
Grace, you know what's funny? That you said, okay, let's wrap up. Then you go like, okay, now, you just go straight to the point. Like, well, for more news, log on to myjoyonline.com.
Okay, so tomorrow Becky will do that. Prime Business is up next.